Hello, and welcome to the Art of Intuition podcast. My name is Susan Jane, and I believe that trusting your intuition is the best way to live your life with meaning and purpose. Each week you will hear about how you can connect, develop, and trust your intuition through interviews with other guests and my own personal experiences. Join me to understand how your intuition can guide you towards a life full of meaning and loving purpose. Hello and welcome to the Art of Intuition podcast. I'm Susan Jane, your host for the podcast. And if you're watching this on the video, I look really red because it's really hot here today. We've had a really, really humid day today. And so I'm feeling quite hot and flustered. And to top it all off, our air conditioning decided to have a holiday, not work. So it is quite warm here. And we're chatting with this beautiful young lady who is at Tel Aviv. So it's cold over there and it's in the morning. Well, here it's in the evening and it's hot. So it looks quite funny when we see each other. But before we go on any further, I've got to do this. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, whatever you need to do. You have to do that because I'm told I've got to do that. So please do as you are being told to, like I have to. No, you just do what you like. But today we've got Jeni in. Now, Jeni is a mindful productivity and mental fitness coach, mental fitness. Okay. And she talking all about creating happiness and growth. And she's going to help us by taking control of that little mind, the little voice that sits in the back of our mind and sort of does steer us often in the not so positive way. But anyway, I'm not going to say too much about Jeni because she's going to introduce herself like I usually do because I love hearing their stories. It's really, really lovely. So welcome on board, Jeni.
Hi, thank you for having me, Susan. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm delighted. I'm looking forward to hearing this because I know my little voice in the back of my head goes somewhat crazy and I do need a little bit more mental workout to keep things in track. But first of all, just so the listeners know, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
I actually started my career as an architect. And after a decade, I loved the profession. I was really passionate about it, but I felt like it wasn't my purpose anymore. And I went on starting a life as an entrepreneur. And the more I got into entrepreneurship, I realized that's what's holding back most people wasn't their business strategy or their idea or anything like that. It was their mind and it was their energy. And I saw so many people burn out before they succeeded and seen results. And I wanted to help them. And I started my journey with a blog, which was called Leisure Hacker. It was still in the days that I was an architect. And I just felt like I needed simple, easy ways for me to bring more happiness into my life and bring more joy, and how to cultivate that in my busy schedule without changing so much. And then it kind of evolved, and I got into coaching, into discovering mental fitness a few years ago. And it's just absolutely changed my life in a way that it helped me go about my business and my life in a more intuitive way, in a more positive way, and just to handle life and challenges and business and whatever comes up with ease and without struggle. And this is what we want when we cultivate life. So this is a little bit about how I got to do what I do.
Wow. Okay. And so many guests I've had on the show have had another life almost, and yours was an architect. So that's very, very structured, but very creative at the same time, isn't it?
It is. That's what I love about architecture. It's just that combination of physics, structure, math, engineering with the creativity of art and design. And I really see myself as that person in the middle. What I do today is also kind of the middle point between productivity and goal setting in a very, very structured way to help people reach their goals, and the mindfulness and the mental fitness, which is a more kind of soft in tune. So I always find myself in the middle between the masculine and the feminine, the very structured and the very creative. And I think that that's the sweet spot to getting what we want, and still without sacrificing our happiness or our well-being. So kind of, I like that point in the middle.
Yes, I agree. I know exactly what you mean too, because I'm very analytical. Now I do like structure. I do like to have a good understanding of what's happening and where things are going. But in the same token, I love the creative side of it too. So it is that nice medium. And I think also with the creative side, it allows our intuition to come through. But to really get that intuition into action, we still need to have that analytical side, that, that structured side too. So we do get the blend of both. But what I do want to say before we go on any further is Jeni's website. So it's now you say leisurehacker.com. I say leisurehacker.com. That's the Australian accent coming through. So leisurehacker.com or leisurehacker.com, all in one word. So that's your website. Now, all right, so we've got an understanding of where you've come from, your background. We've got this lovely knowledge that you have this structure and this analytical side to go with your beautiful, soft, creative, intuitive side as well. So you're doing this. One of the things you're doing, hang on, let me have a look at your sheet again. I have to have a look at your sheet. One of the things you were doing is a mental fitness boot camp. What is that all about? Before we get into understanding what this little voice is, what's your boot camp all about?
So my bootcamp is just a way for us to kind of have a reset on that little voice in our mind and gain back control over our life, and it starts with the way we think. A lot of the time, we go about our day and just go on autopilot. We react to situations, we make decisions without understanding that what's in control, it's that little voice in the back of our mind that is making decisions for us. We have thousands of thoughts during the day, and we're not aware of most of them. And the funny or the sad thing is that most of them are negative thoughts. And this is how we operate and go about our day. In the mental fitness boot camp, and in general with the mental fitness practice, we learn how to gain control over that little voice in the back of our mind and manage it so we can control it instead of it being in control of us and our lives. And I think it's such a powerful practice, because a lot of the time we used to think about mental health, and mental health was defined by something very black or white. We're either mentally ill or mentally healthy. Is there something wrong with us, or something, or we're healthy or we're okay? I think with the practice of mental fitness is not looking if we're ill or if we're healthy, but looking at how fit we are, how mentally fit we are. Because a lot of the time, and I always give the example of physical fitness or physical strength. You can be physically healthy. There could be nothing wrong with you. You don't have any illnesses. But are you fit enough, or are you strong enough to climb the next mountain, the next challenge? The same with mental fitness. We're looking at a person's mind as are we strong enough to handle whatever challenges comes in our way, whether in life or in business. And we just train our mind, just like at the gym. We have a little gym sessions, and we train our mind to become stronger and stronger so we can handle bigger challenges. And this boot camp is actually a partnership with me and a company called Positive Intelligence, is one of the largest educational and training companies in the States. And they created a massive research worldwide with over 500,000 people. And they developed this system that it's not my own. I didn't invent it. It's a combination of all kinds of practices of neuroscience, of positive psychology, of cognitive behavioral therapy, of performance science and original research they did in positive intelligence through years and years. And they really discovered the root cause of our mind, of our problems, of our challenges. And they develop a really, really simple system that I teach. And they created an app, which is like a gym for our mind, the same way we go to the gym and we lift weights or we exercise to become physically fit. I think in this day and age, we need to become mentally fit as well so we can handle challenges with ease. So, this is the mental fitness bootcamp where we teach people for 8 weeks how to reset their mind and become stronger mentally so they can handle anything that comes.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. And you can do that online, or is it?
Yes, of course. I have clients from all over the world, not Australia yet, but from the States, from Europe, from South America, from Canada, and we do it online. We meet. There's I what I like about the mental fitness bootcamp that it's a unique combination of learning. We have some videos that we can see online and learn about the mental fitness and positive intelligence and the practice. We get to do some coaching with me online that we go deeper and we unpack the problems and unpack the issues that we've been carrying and learn how to really embody that in our daily life. And we also have an app that is also developed by Positive Intelligence, which is an amazing company. That in the bootcamp, we really go to a mental gym and train our mind. So it's just a beautiful combination of learning and practicing and coaching and just to get our best results. I think we're in this era that knowledge isn't enough anymore. We can learn, and we can read blogs and we can read books and we can listen to podcasts as well. But if we don't know how to implement that knowledge, then that knowledge isn't going to help us in our lives. And with this podcast as well, I want us to, for everybody who's listening to a podcast, that knowledge is amazing, but I also want you to take something from that and go and implement in your life as soon as you go off the podcast, as soon as you finished reading the book. Otherwise, we're not going to create a true change in our lives.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And one of the things about the podcast that I've always tried to do is have some sort of a tip or some sort of an learning that the people can take away and they can start practicing it. And that brings me round to this, how we're going to control this now. Obviously, we don't want the full boot camp. We can't do that. That's not happening unless people join up. And if you do want to join up, you go back to Jeni's website, which is leisurehacker.com or leisurehacker.com /MFB. So that would stand for Mental Fitness Bootcamp, obviously. Yes. So jump on there if you want to get a bit more understanding of that one. But today we just want to learn a little bit, something that we can, like you say, take home and we can start practicing on that. So one little lesson, I guess, that we could have, and it gives us an understanding of what the boot camp's all about. It gives us an understanding of your coaching as well, and it gives somebody something they can action straight away. So first of all, describe, tell me, define, do all that sort of stuff. What is the little voice in our head?
Okay, so our brain is actually divided into two parts. We have the positive part of our brain where all love, intuition, focus, creativity, joy, all the good stuff live in that part of our brain. But our brain also has a different part, which is our negative brain. It's our survival brain. It's where, and we can connect it to any practice you already know. But that little voice in our mind, our inner critic, maybe you know it by that name, is the ruler of the survival brain, and its only job in life is to keep us alive. In the past, it was really, really useful because it was meant to keep us alive by alerting us from dangers. Let's say we're going in the woods and we're seeing a lion. That little voice in our mind is screaming, danger, danger, danger. It triggers our flight or fright reaction, and it makes us take steps in order for us to stay alive. But in the modern day, that mechanism is no longer useful. We're not encountering any lions or tigers in our workspace. But that mechanism was, with evolution, became so overused that it sees danger in everything in our lives. We get an email from our boss, and that little voice in our mind is saying danger, danger. And it makes us operate from a very negative and survival based place, instead of tapping into our intuition or tapping into our true self or our higher self, whatever we want to call it. And once we learn that, and we learn to become aware of our patterns and of the patterns of our thinking and of our behavior, we can start changing them. So this is the first step in any change we want to do, is bring awareness to wherever we're doing. And I want you to think about all the negative patterns in your life that you would like to change, whether it's procrastination, whether it's not going to the gym, whether it's very levels of stress you have in your life, all the negative emotions we feel in our lives, whether it's anxiety, shame, guilt, anger, frustration, they all originate from that little voice in the back of our mind. And in the positive intelligence practice, we call it our inner judge. That inner judge is a really, really mean, nasty character. His job is to judge us, whether you have thoughts of, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart, young, old, skinny enough, I'm not good enough to do whatever I'm trying to do. This is self judgment. The second part is judging other people. Maybe you go about your day and say, like, oh, why are they doing like this? Why can't they be more like this? And the third part of this judge, that little voice in the back of our mind, which a lot of people aren't aware of, is judging our life circumstances. A lot of the time, when we're unhappy with life circumstances, or even when we're saying, when I get the job, I'll be happy. When I get my life partner, then I'll be pleased. Or then I can, when I hit that income goal, then I can relax. That all originates with the same judge. It's that same negative voice in the back of our mind. As soon as we become more and more aware of it, we can change it with more ease. Does this make sense?
Yes, yeah, I understand what you mean. So yeah, it's really being aware of that voice and aware of those things that are coming through, and getting that understanding of, do they really belong there? And I mean, sometimes I'll get a negative thought come through, and it's like I acknowledge it, but I don't necessarily have to believe it or sit with it or act on it, or take it further forward. So yeah, so I understand, and it's just like you say, you're just aware of it. It's happening. So that little voice is happening in the back of our head. Now, a lot of those little voices have come back from like childhood and everything else. So we've got a lot of that, just happening all the time.
Yeah.
What I want to get an understanding of, so I've got this little voice coming in. When I do have them come in and I've become aware of them, then what's my next step? What would I do and start to change and start to look at now?
So the next part of it is just naming it. Like you said, I'm aware of having a negative thought. Maybe I'm judging myself. A lot of the time, we're not even aware. We're so used to negative self talk. We wake up in the morning, our mind is racing with thoughts. Most of them are negative, and we're just judging ourselves. So instead of, I know that a lot of the time we're like, okay, I'm having a negative thought. I can acknowledge it. I want the next step to be naming it and creating space between our own voice and that little voice, that negative voice in the back of our mind, our inner judge. And because our true self, our true voice, our intuition, our highest self, whatever we want to call it, this is truly who we are. And that inner judge isn't our true voice. And what I love doing and what I teach people to do is just name that voice as the inner judge and not as your own voice. A lot of the time when we say, I'm not good enough, or I'm a procrastinator, or I'm bad at math, or bad with finances, or when I say, we're using actually negative affirmation. We see in the spiritual practice a lot of the time we we teach positive affirmations like I'm enough, I'm smart, but we don't notice how much throughout the day we're using negative affirmations. We're saying I'm not enough, or I'm lazy, or I'm fat, or whatever it is. We're actually stating it to be our own truth. Our we are staying in it, the truth, and then our subconscious mind doesn't really know whether it's the truth or not. We just believe it. And if I say I'm not good enough, I'm gonna start believing in it, and I'm gonna start living my life as though I'm not good enough. If we learn how to catch that little voice and name it as our judge, then we can start creating space between our voice and that voice and start creating change and question it. So if I say I'm not good enough, I can say my judge thinks I'm not good enough. And when I say that, it's kind of becoming a third party, and then I can start questioning it, like, really, is this true? Like, am I not good enough for this role or for whatever I'm trying to achieve? And then I can start questioning and start changing it slowly, um, by creating a doubt in our own story we tell ourselves. Just like if we had a negative friend in our life and he was telling us, oh, you're not good enough, I would say I wouldn't take it as my own truth. I wouldn't believe it. I would say, like, really, am I not good enough, or are you just judging me? But we don't know how to, we need to learn how to do the same, um, blameless discernment on ourselves without judgment.
Yeah, okay. I'm following where you're going. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask, you're saying, because look, I'm putting this back into me and how I go about life, and hopefully no one does the same, because it's not necessarily a good thing, but they get an understanding. So, Jeni, you're saying that I'm not good enough, or the little voice is saying I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, I'm not that. I don't always hear it in that way, in that sort of terminology. I can sometimes hear it where I'll go, oh, I'm going to paint this. And it's not, you're not good enough. It's like, oh, really? It's just like, oh, really? And I guess where I'm going with this is it's not always the same way. Sometimes it's almost a feeling that you're getting, that you sort of go, oh, and it steps you back, and it makes you think again, or it makes you feel that you aren't good enough, or it makes you feel a different way. So when you were saying, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm this, I'm that. Oh, one of the things. Okay, so I have self-worth issues. But I don't turn around and say, I'm not worthy. I know I have self-worth issues. So when I turn around and go, oh, no, I don't think I'll do that, that's when I have to say, why? Because I'm not necessarily saying I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy. It's almost a different way about it, and the way it was going. So I just wanted to bring that forward too, because if my head turned around and said, oh, I'm not good enough, I know straight away that's a negative thought and I can stop that. But when I say it in a different way, and I can hear my voice coming back in repeat, but when I say it a different way, it's almost hidden. That judge is almost hidden in the feelings that you're having, or that almost that fear that you get. It's like, oh no, I couldn't ask for a pay rise. I'm not good enough for that. But I don't say I'm not good enough for that. I just say, oh, I couldn't ask for a pay rise. There's so much fear there. I guess I wasn't going deep enough. And I think that's where you're coming from. And that's where you would probably go with the boot camp, wouldn't you?
Yes. So thank you for mentioning that, Susan. This is such an important point. And I love how you connected it to the feelings. So we can use our feelings as kind of a red flag for something wrong is going on in our mind. Every time we have a negative feeling, we feel fear, stress, anxiety, again, shame, guilt, anger, frustration, we feel stuck, something isn't going, or we just feel dis-ease or grumpiness, any negative emotion we have or feeling, this should be a little red flag for something, for a negative thought that is behind that. And again, yes, I'm not enough is a very like big red flag. Like, I know this is a judgment thought, but sometimes this is hidden. And this is what we teach in the boot camp to kind of bring this to our awareness. So every time we feel we hit a wall, we feel stuck, we feel stressed, this should be a little red flag for us to then pause and say, like, okay, what is the thought behind this feeling? Why am I feeling this way? And why is a great question. And we learn how to bring the thought that is the root cause of this feeling to our awareness. Now, I wasn't sure if we're going to get that deep, but I love that you mentioned it. And I want to say, together with the judge, and this is something that a lot of us know if we're in a spiritual practice, inner critic, our ego, this is something very common. In positive intelligence, they actually did a study and they mapped the brain and they did a lot of research. And they found out that we have other 9 mean little characters in the back of our mind together with our inner judge. In positive intelligence, we
I
call them.
didn't need to know that. I
Oh
just
no,
wanted to
no, but it's good. It's gonna help us bring this to our awareness. So this little 9 characters in positive intelligence, we call them saboteurs. It's a way for us to self-sabotage. And everybody has all 9 voices, but most of us operate in 2 or 3 self-sabotaging ways. And if you think about it, if we really reflect on our lives, we can see that the way we sabotage our relationship is the same way we sabotage our work life and the same way we sabotage our health. And I'm going to give a little practice from productivity is procrastination. So one of those voices is the avoider. If we have a pattern of avoidance, we're usually gonna self-sabotage the same way in all areas of our life. If it's work, we're gonna procrastinate doing tasks. We're gonna procrastinate things to the last minute. We're gonna do our work just before the deadline. But we're gonna avoid unpleasant situations in our relationship. We're gonna avoid going to the gym even if we know it's gonna be good for our health. So once we learn, and this is the beauty of the bootcamp, once we learn with which pattern we operate, and we can find out those hidden patterns. So like you said, maybe it's not as strong as I'm not good enough, but maybe we can spot patterns of thinking in everything we do. And once we can bring that to our awareness, then we can say, like, oh, this is a negative thought. This is not serving me. This is holding me back. And then I can start and create change. So what I recommend, first of all, we can go to, I don't know if we can link it in the podcast, but you can go and just write in Google, positive intelligence saboteur assessment. It's a free test. It just takes about 10 or 15 minutes for you to do. And you can find out what are the negative thought patterns you have in your life. And they really, really state what kind of thoughts go with each pattern. And yes, we might not want to know that, but once we know that, we have so much power, so we can change that. And we all have patterns of thoughts and behaviors we're not pleased of. Maybe it's self-worth, maybe it's avoiding things, maybe we're people pleasers and we give and give until we create a lot of resentment. Whatever it is, once we're aware of it, it's becoming really, I don't want to say change is easy, but sometimes it can be simple. So I really, really encourage people, if there's one thing they can take from that podcast, is starting to become more and more aware of their thoughts, whether through this assessment, whether through just like thinking and contemplating on their own patterns in life.
Correct. I'm just typing up the positive intelligence. So that was the
Saboteur assessment.
Saboteur assessment. Okay, and I'll put that down in the notes down underneath, because that sounds really, really interesting. And yes, I know that there's a lot of other little nasty voices in my head, because I hear them. But the other thing I wanted to bring forward, when you first were talking about it, and you said, I'm not worthy, or I'm not this, I'm not that. And you said to name it and call it the angry judge.
Our inner judge, yeah.
Inner judge. Sorry, the video went funny when you said it. So yeah, so that inner judge, or whatever it is. But also, I just feel that when you're talking about the feelings, I think we need to name them as well, because too often we get those negative feelings and we sort of just lump it. Like I know I do. I'll sort of say, I'm just having an off day. Whereas I should really and should is a bad word, and I'm not supposed to use that, but I should really look into that a little bit more, because that is actually going to help me understand what I'm experiencing. Or, like you say, one of those nine different, yeah, one of those 9 different aspects that we're looking at. So instead of just saying, oh, no, I'm having a bad day, or oh, no, that I'm just shitty, or I'm just frustrated, to really find out the why, like you were saying, that's going to give us a lot better understanding of that little voice that's going on in the back of our head, and getting that understanding between the voice and the feeling, and where we're going to go with that. So I love that. But the boot camp sounds amazing, because you're going to really nail it, like really dig in and get an understanding of it. All right, so this is where we're up to. Acknowledge it, awareness. Okay, so we've had the thought. See if there is an emotion attached to it, or if there's an emotion attached to it, acknowledge that too. And even if you can put a name to that, or like you say, make it that third party, that inner judge, that inner critic, whatever it is. And then what do we do?
Well,
Now it's you.
this is the good part.
I
So
nearly kept on speaking.
no, I love what you said. So exactly, we can use our emotions, because they're on the surface, as, like I said, as warning signs, as little red flags, like, oh, I'm having a bad day, or I'm stressed. We're so used to stress, and stress management is one of like my passions and my expertise. We feel so much stress during the day that we already kind of used to it. We're like, oh, I'm really, really stressed. And we just go about our day without understanding that it doesn't have to be like that, that we can change that. So I really, really encourage you, every time you're having an off day, and it's okay, we all have bad days, we're all feeling stressed, just use this as a little warning sign and a little red flag to go deeper and to bring that awareness and to ask, like, why am I having a bad day? Why am I feeling stressed? What is the story I'm telling myself that's making me feel stressed? Because stress is only a story we tell ourselves. Anything that happens in our life isn't good or bad, isn't stressful at its core. It's just the way our inner judge is interpreting it that makes us feel stressed about it. So every time I feel stressed or angry or frustrated, whatever it is, I can pause. And this is the key. Pause for a second. Don't just go about your day and saying, like, oh, it's okay, I'm stressed. Tomorrow is going to be a better day. Pause that for a second and say, like, why am I feeling stressed? What is the thought behind this? What is the story I'm telling myself? And then you can name that. Oh, maybe my inner judge is telling me that this situation is going to do this and this. A lot of the time, stress comes from past thinking or future thinking. And once we're like, oh, this is something that didn't even happen, I can come back to the present moment and have a little more peace of mind. So once we sense the feeling, we have a negative emotion, we're pausing for a second, we're questioning it, we're trying to understand what is the story. And even if we can't get to the root cause, we can just name it as, like, okay, my inner judge is telling me that if I don't do it by this deadline, maybe I'm gonna lose my job, or maybe something bad is happening. And just acknowledging that there is a negative story behind that. And then the second part of it, which is kind of the tricky part that takes a little mental practice, is self-commanding ourselves back to the present moment. All negative emotions, they originate in fear. They originate in fear from the past, or fear from the future, from worry, from all these stories we tell ourselves. The place where there's no fear or no stress or no negative emotions is the present moment. And in Mental Fitness Bootcamp, and I teach how to step outside of our head and into our body and into our present moment. And we do this by doing something that is called PQ rep. So PQ is positive intelligence, and rep is just repetitions. It's just a little bit like doing, I call it brain push-ups, just training our brain muscles to self-command ourselves from the story we tell ourselves in our head into the present moment and into our body. And to do this, it's just a 10-second practice, and we can do it together. It's a little hard if on the podcast, but it's mainly focusing all our thoughts in one moment into a bodily sensation. It's a little like mindfulness practice, that instead of trying to clear our mind, because it's really hard if I'm really stressed about a deadline and I'm in my head and I'm overthinking everything, it's really hard for us to sit even in meditation sometimes and say, let's clear our mind. But if we can train our mind and command our mind to focus all our attention for 1 second into a physical sensation, let's say, and we can do that, and we can do that together, Susan. And just if you see this on video, I'm just rubbing two fingers, one against the other. And if you're listening to the podcast, you can do it as well. And you can close your eyes if you feel it, and just really, really gently rub two fingertips, one against the other. But I wanted you to do it with such an attention that you really, really feel the fingertip ridges on both fingers. And just focus all your thought on the sensations of your fingers. And if your mind is wandering, just bring it back to the sensation of your fingers. And we can also take the fingertips of one palm and just rub them gently against the other palm. And just do it with such attention, again, that you can feel any sensation, whether your palms are maybe dry or a little bit sweaty. Are they cold or are they warm? Just really focus all your intention into the bodily sensation. And if we do it a few seconds, we can calm our mind just for a second and bring ourselves back to the present moment where everything is safe, where everything is calm. And from that place, we can really, really tap into our intuition, into our inner voice, into the truth, and not that story that our inner judge is trying to tell us.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you, Jeni. I thought I might have, my thoughts sort of did go to, if people are listening to this in a car, don't close your eyes.
Yes, obviously. If you're driving anything, you can don't close your eyes. But by the way, this little practice of rubbing our fingertips together, if we're doing it on one hand, it's something that we can do while walking, even while driving, of course, with
Yes.
all the safety precautions. And I
Yeah.
love this little practice, but because we can use it anytime. We're on this call right now on this podcast. And if I feel a little stressed for a second, or if my mind wanders, I can do this without even on being on camera and just
Yeah.
bring myself back to, hey, I'm a human being. I'm having a human experience, coming back to the body, because our mind can tell our stories and just go on and on. And we all experience this like negative spiral, like you said, like I feel
Yeah.
stuck. And then like we tell ourselves a story that keep repeating and repeating. And this little practice brings ourselves and just stopping that negative spiral and saying like, oh, wait, I'm here. I'm safe. There's no tiger out there to get me, to eat me. I'm not in danger. And from that place, and this is the third part we teach in mental fitness bootcamp, is actually how to tap into our inner sage and our inner wisdom, our intuition, whatever we want to call it, and just tap into a more positive emotions and feelings. And we can only do that if we learn how to self command from that negative spiral to the present moment, into the now, and into our body again.
Yes, and that's such a lovely and easy and simple technique. But yeah, I was thinking the same when you started saying we need to focus on a body, a sensation in the body. Funnily enough, I went straight to my left palm, and I thought, oh, I'm going to feel energy coming in my left palm. So that's what I went to. So when you started rubbing the tips of your fingers together, a bit like when people say, I want more money. When you started doing that and then you went to your palms, I went, oh wow, that's exactly the area that I was thinking. It sort of takes your mind, it takes your mind away from everything else, and we get so involved in, and like you say, that spiraling circle of negativity, and we get sucked down with that. And what I've always said too, Jeni, is that when you're feeling down, you will find everything that you've ever felt bad about for your whole life. You will drag all that crap from the past and you'll bring it all in together, all in one. When you're feeling happy, You're only feeling the moment.
Yeah.
You're never thinking forward, and you're never thinking of the past. I don't have a great day. I'm really happy and laughing and thinking, oh, I did that 3 weeks ago. Never do that. Yet if I'm having a bad day, I'll go, oh, 3 weeks ago that happened too. So it's really interesting. But that just rubbing your fingers and rubbing your palm just makes your head swap and stop and come back to where we need to be. That was amazing. I loved that. Thank you.
Of course. And this is true. Like all our worry, all our stress, all our fear comes from living in the past. Like, oh, I did this. I shouldn't have done that. Or from the future. What if? What will happen? I will never. In the present moment, everything is okay. And if we can learn to train, and this is why it's mental fitness, train our mind to always come back to the present moment, to the now, to the safety, to the body, we can always cultivate that positive feelings. And if we practice it enough, we can live more and more in the positive realm and in the present moment. And I love what you said. Exactly. When I'm happy, I'm just happy. I'm in the present moment. I'm in my body. I'm just feeling happiness. I'm not worried. And as soon as I think about, oh, I have this thing that I need to do, or I shouldn't have done that, I snap out of it. And we need to learn how to come back, continue coming back to the present moment. And this little kind of trick of rubbing our fingers is a great way for us to do it. As soon as we start spiraling down, we're like, no, inner judge, not today. Today we're living in the moment. Today we're living in the now, and just tap into that happiness again.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Jeni. Now, look, we're getting a little bit low on time now. I just wanted to let you know on the ticker tape I've got going past for those on the podcast is Instagram, Jeni's Leisure Hacker at Instagram, or Leisure Hacker at Instagram. It sounds so posh when you say Leisure Hacker.
I actually love the way you say it.
Leisure Hacker. Yeah. So, and that's, probably should be a little bit more ladylike than Leisure Hacker. But anyway, I love it. It's great. Okay, so we're just about finished. So again, if we just quickly run through it, it's like, be aware of the thoughts and the emotions of the negativity side. Name them and shame them. Name them and put them in their place. It's that inner critic, that inner judge. Then we needed to bring our mind back to the now, the present, and we can do that using the finger technique and the palm rubbing technique, and that brings us back, and that's how we can control those little thoughts. That's incredible. I love it. That's so good. All right, so that is all we've got time for. One last thing, Jeni. Anything else you want to put forward? And remember her boot camp.
Yes, just if anybody have any questions, want to reach out, I'm always on Instagram at Leisure Hacker. Just send me a message. I'm always happy to connect and to kind of shed more light on mental fitness. I share a lot of content there, so you're more than welcome to come and join me on Instagram as well.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jeni. Stay on the line because I want to chat with you when we're finished, and I will do the closing bit and what I have to do, and then I'll be back.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. That was so good. And what's really good is the fact that with it, you've just learned a technique you can take home, a technique you can do while you're driving. Not two hands, only one, please. But you can do this straight away. There's no reason for you not to go well, hang on, that's a bit of a shitty thought. Let's change it. Let's come back to where I was and stop going off on that little tangent and that path or that spiraling circle. So I loved it. That was really cool. I'll get some nice guests on. I'm so lucky. But with all that, make sure you like, subscribe, share the podcast or the Art of Intuition show on Instagram, on YouTube. And I will say bye for now, and we will talk to you next week as well. Okay, we've got heaps more guests coming on. All right, I'll say bye for now.